what can I really say right now about the chapter? I'm 100% going to lay my initial thoughts out on the table. One, I don't think this was Mishima's week. With Eden Zero and 100 Years Quest, it just felt like he. So essentially, I'll give just a quick little TLDR for the people who they haven't been as well on with Mishima's style as long. Maybe you picked up Eden Zero 100 Years Quest within the last year or two, and now you're caught up. When he wants to get by something, then he's completely fine with throwing a character away, just letting him get chopped up. Like Aknoella got essentially the same thing Kier did, but without the whole weird extra plot piece. It's just like she just got revealed and then chopped in half. Very strange. And Dogramag, like he got revealed obviously, as alive in a way, and then used as an opponent. It's really weird because I felt like, at least from the style of how it went and played out, Mishima had this arc plan, because also this wasn't a very long arc, so I think this also really helps with at least my belief of what Mishima was doing, is that he wanted to get the premise of this arc. Like, okay, there's going to be a labyrinth, Fairy Tail versus Diabolos, at the end they're going to be allies, and there's going to be stuff set up for how this is going to affect later. Because the whole bit about the ominous, what could it mean? What could result from this? From the labyrinth collapsing and messing with the whole continent. That's clearly some form of foreshadowing. That's a Lucy is telling us at this point, yeah, from the far future, yeah, I'm retelling this, and this is a foreshadow bit for something that is about to happen. That's for sure. Because I was upset that the Dogramag fight got shortened. And again, I think it was a combination of things. I think that Mishima wanted to get past this, but I don't think he was as invested with Dogramag as unfortunately I was. But also, I think the fact that one of the people on Ueda's team got COVID, and there was that chapter hiatus week where we didn't get one for 2 weeks. And I think aside from the normal, specific holiday things, I think that's the only time there's been a chapter break since 100 Years Quest has started. So I can't be mad at it. But it's like, I think that maybe because of that they decided to, maybe end the chapter one, the fight one chapter earlier. Or like, okay, we'll just get through this fight because it's not as important to the story, and we want to get into the next parts. And again, I would have really much preferred getting more of Dogramag. It's like, I like Dogramag. He was, again, a surprise character who I had not intended to have stocks and interest in, other than getting some flashback and stuff going into Dark, because I didn't think he was going to pop up as the surprise villain. But I would have really preferred, like I said, to actually get more of his character, more to get a display of him in general. That's for sure. I like the arc overall. Don't get me wrong. I like the arc overall. The two things that for me were the parts that pulled its ranking down for me. Like I said, with the fight short, with it being as short as it was, I can give it at best 8.25 out of 10, because I liked a lot of the other stuff. I liked the introductions for the Diabolos members. Everybody besides Misaki. Like I said, I think the only parts primarily I didn't like is that Masaki's character didn't really get any form of display, and then the Dogramag fight was too short. Because I didn't think any of the Diabolos members are really going to die, because I expected after this arc for them to have some form of treaty or alliance or some form of, squashing beef, and it looks like that's what's happening. So I didn't think that any of them were going to kill each other off. Obviously, we're not going to kill any of the main cast off by a labyrinth arc that has, that feels like a bonus objective and stuff into what's going on, and not this is a major giant battle thing where there's some super mega enemies that are more obviously set to be the evil bad guys, because the Diabolos members, like I said, they're adversaries. They're not evil. The closest we've had is just some sadism kind of style stuff with them, but other than that, it's not that bad. But with them, like I said, I like where things are going with the Diablo stuff. That I was a big fan of. If the chapter was if the chapter had it being like more on the fight, and then it's like we still had the same general content as we got this chapter following it, I think it would have been much better. Because like I said, I was just upset that the fight was short, and unfortunately we didn't get as much Dogramag as I would have liked. Maybe we'll get some flashbacks and stuff to improve his character, kind of like with Georg later, to where it's not going to do anything crazy, but it's at least just to kind of like bolster up this character up a little bit to make them more likable or something. Either way, it was still in a setup that, again, I liked that we are moving beyond that arc in a really good direction. I would have liked to leave off on that arc in a better spot. And again, I think like a bigger fight would have been that way. It feels really weird because it's like Mishima, like with Lucy's fight. Lucy's fight was like a really big battle. It felt like this is her character fight for the arc. Where it's like even with Suzaku teamed up, it didn't feel like that with him and Natsu. Like with Natsu and Alderaan, yeah, that was like that felt like that style of fight. And it felt like that with Suzaku for human form of Selene, but it wasn't that same thing with Dogramag. And granted, we knew, because people lose context over Dogramag constantly. Constantly they forget. He's the weakest dragon god. The near indestructible state he was in was because of all the Dogra cores. Once they were destroyed, it wasn't nerf Dogramag they were fighting, it was normal Dogramag. They were fighting a buff Dogramag. So once they got him to his normal strength, I didn't think it would be as much of a hurdle, because both Natsu and Suzaku, because they should be stronger than human form Selene, should be stronger than the human form of Dogramag. But obviously the dragon form Dogramag is a different story, but them combined in Unison Raid is believable. I would have liked to see more from Dogramag, like I said, though. That was the one thing. It's like, we know that the dragons have levels of regeneration. It's not infinite. It's not like they lose a head and it grows back. And I guess unless you're Atlas Flame and you're made of fire. But there's the whole aspect that they can regenerate from wounds. It's just to what degree. Selene got a huge hole in her chest. She's not like good the next day, but clearly she is going to recover. Whereas Dogramag, well, I assume a way more powerful attack than you, fire sword to the throat, would probably kill you. Plus, he's already in a state where he was sort of dead already. Again, my only thing about it is like, I wish the fight was a little bit longer. I would have really liked Dogramag to pull out some form of trump card, and then Natsu would have to pull out some form of their trump card, or maybe Suzaku and him would have to do one last move, or maybe other characters can show up. Something to kind of give Dogramag a bit of an end. I will say I'm happy that he had that one cool big stomp where he like encases people in diamond and stuff, because it's not as crazy as you would expected, but it's at least something. And again, I feel like Mishima when he was writing this arc, he had a lot of the stuff he had planned out, but he's like, well, I need a main villain. He's like, well, he worked Dogramag, he made it sense in the story, and then he's just like, well, other than that, he's kind of more for setup. I don't think I'm going to do too much with him. Which, unfortunate. I like Dogramag. I like that we got more than just him being like a powerful bad guy. We did get chunks to his personality and more for him standing out, which I liked. And again, I'm hoping maybe in some flashbacks with Ignia, we'll see a little bit more of Dogramag's humanity. I know there's some people like in the hopes that Dogramag is actually still alive and he'll team up with Ignia again. If there's some way that Ignia, like, say there's like one more orb and it's like Ignia had it, and because of that he can bring Dogramag back to life, and you can't kill Dogramag until all the orbs are actually fully destroyed, I think that'd be fine, as long as there's like a way that, one, it would make sense, and two, there's a value to it, because it's like, oh, well, now we're going to see him and Ignia hanging out, interactions between them, and then maybe later we'll get like a full, instead, Suzaku versus Dogramag fight, and that'll be his opponent. I think that'd be really cool. I'd be in game for that. But again, that's something that we'll just have to wait and see for. As of right now, like I said, I liked the arc overall. I definitely didn't like the ending. Felt a little abrupt. But like I said, I can't get too mad at it, because I feel like the COVID stuff behind the scenes had to hinder the arc at least a little bit. I don't imagine that it wouldn't. But either way, as I said, I wish the fight was longer, but I'm very pleased at where this story is going post Labyrinth. Like, we didn't just sit the entire chapter on talking about the Labyrinth. What's going on with the Labyrinth? The Labyrinth is collapsing. Okay. It's like, no, we did stuff with that. We're moving on. And it looks like we're getting more members of Diabolos, too, which actually is very much hype for me. As I've said, I mentioned it multiple of my reviews for 100 Years Quest lately. I like pretty much all of Diabolos. The only member of Diabolos that I've been kind of in on is Misaki. But it looks like Misaki is going to be getting some more character, like, post-enemy, essentially, status. Because I didn't think that Mishima was going to, like I said, I didn't think he was just going to kill off any of these people already. My phone keeps going off, like, literally right in the middle of, like, never wants to tell me all this shit, and then it's like I'm doing a video, and it wants to freaking ding every 30 seconds. But Misaki didn't really get any form of real character insight during this arc, and that was the thing I thought was a little strange. Like, okay, well, Kieran's got his whole rivalry with Laxus. You know, that's a character thing. You obviously find out he's kind of funny. He's powerful and serious, but at the same time, he's got like a little bit of playful nature. Haku is goofy. He's got his crush on Wendy. Suzaku's got like the whole, he's either like very serious and he's like this kind of very more stoic, vagabondish samurai guy. And then, you know, it's something he finds it's funny. He's like seeing something naked and he's like cracking up and he thinks it's hilarious. But it's like Misaki didn't really get anything, but it looks like, at least as of right now, Mishima might be doing a bit more for her character as an ally, which I think is fine. I really like that we're getting a alliance and connection between the Fairy Tail Guild and the Diabolos Guild. Obviously, there's still stuff going on in the background. We had like Dogramag doesn't seem really bothered by his defeat in terms of what the large scale plan is. I'm very curious to know, like, from Dogramag's perspective, was he dead? Is it like, oh, I can only be alive if I'm in the labyrinth, so as long as I'm here, I'm alive, but I can't actually leave this location, and because of that, he wouldn't really have minded himself dying, because he's already technically dead in a way. It's just one of those things that's, like, I'm very curious as to his side of things. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to die, it's over, but I know that our plan and our side is still good. Or is it going to be one of those things where it's like, maybe once Ignia does his plan, Dogramag will come back to life, and why Dogramag doesn't care. There's a couple of obvious theories of like how Ignia is going to do some form of New Age of Dragons. If is he going to do some form of time travel thing like Future Rogue, or is he going to essentially like force humans to become dragon slayers and then forcefully transform them to make new dragons? Regardless of which, obviously, it's a big thing right now with him. You know, it's one of the big plot pieces in 100 Years Quest that isn't directly just like, you know, it sort of is, I guess, in a way, defeating the dragon gods, but it's like Ignia's is like an extra thing for him that they have to worry about now. But while they're just trying to pretty much end the fight, I actually just is one thing. I'm curious to know if this would count as like an attack, sort of, because like when you have a character who has a suicide attack, it's like Tempest is the one. You know, he explodes. I'm not counting him getting a new body. But it's like, you know, when a character does some form of attack that kills their opponent in the process, I think that counts as a win for them. Because it's like, oh, you have, you know, that your enemy has 1 death, 0 wins, versus you have 1 win and 1 death. So it's like you'd come out higher on that. So it would, like, if you beat Dogramag, but you got crushed by all the debris and stuff afterwards, I wonder if that would count as a win for him. Like, if it's something you would have to really kind of escape for, like you beat him, and then essentially the whole terrain of where you're at is going to collapse, or you're going to die under this special dragon rock, I think that could count. I think they could totally be part of it. But yeah, of course, these fucking notifications. I gotta remember to turn this shit off. So annoying. But like Natsu's just trying to struggle, get stuff going, and then he just gets smashed by a piece of the labyrinth. Suzaku doesn't look like he's able to really do anything either, and then bam, that's when Misaki shows up, and Misaki is here to help. I like that Misaki is here to help. Her aiding people on her own team obviously adds a level of humanization to her, gives her a really good extra side. And then Haku shows up as well. I really like that. Just show that he's, as we've known, is a pretty nice kid. He's not really that aggressive. The only thing right now really between his power and like how he fights it's weakening him is he just seems way more friendly than he should be. But I think that you can chalk that up to more of the fact he's like 13 or something. But Misaki goes, like, she uses her spatial magic to help with the rubble from falling on them, and she's just like pretty much saying it's like, Saying like, we came to get you. Suzaku doesn't want him to leave Natsu. She's like, that's, yeah, cool. We're not leaving anyone behind. I like that. I like that when she's like not in a combat mindset, that she's just like, yeah, of course, we're gonna get them out of here. We got you guys. We're gonna make sure to get you guys back out too. I really like that idea that it's like, when it comes to her allies, she's like super polite, super proper and friendly. But it's like the second she's in a scenario where it's enemies, she becomes this very vicious, like almost bloodthirsty character. I think that's just, a neat thing. And again, if that's what Mishima was going for, that'll be something nice for Misaki. Help her actually get some form of characterization instead of just being an enemy, pretty much. When they get Celine out of there, Sai getting away, definitely. I was not a like Sai getting away is more of like an in story, like, dang, I didn't like that, versus like a writing thing. Because I think it makes sense for Sai as a character the second he gets an opportunity to run. And I don't know, I feel like for Panther Lily and them to not really care too much, I'm not too surprised on. I would have liked for them to go for him because there's information you could get from him. But it looks like the Diabolos members end up having stuff on Gold Owl anyway. So I don't think Sai was as necessary as need be. Like, he obviously is going to know more, but if we can get a general rule of thumb and understanding about Gold Owl as we're getting ready to move into the next part of the story, that'll be key. But now that the labyrinth is just collapsing, Haku and everybody comes out. He's got the Natsu and Suzaku plushies. Also, Kieran comes out with Mad Mole and Scolion after months. Like a year of Scolion just not doing anything in the story and just kind of like being MIA, getting knocked out from Laxus that bad. And then we get the really cool bit at the end where it's like the earthquake shook the entire continent of Guiltina. So Dogramag held that up, and Natsu and Suzaku overtaking him should mean that Natsu and Suzaku output more power than the energy and strength it takes to hold up this entire labyrinth. So that's pretty crazy. They're saying in some areas it was large enough to reshape the land, but this is obviously like, that's just like talking about, yeah, that was really large scale, crazy big stuff. And then it's the next part, like, what could the earthquake that collapsed the great labyrinth of Dogramag mean? Obvious big foreshadowing stuff. It's like, at that time we still had no way of knowing. Okay, now you're just telling me foreshadowing stuff. To what extent, who knows? I'm really hoping that Mishima goes the wiped out history route, because the idea of it's like, oh, it collapsed and they're gonna, I don't know, they're gonna use they'd be like, cool, it's like, yeah, the shockwave from it caused energy that we absorbed that powered a machine or ancient relic, something like that. Like, using the earthquake would be neat, but I much prefer, and I'm really hoping Mishima goes for, is instead, like I said, the unearthed blank history thing. Is most of the story in history in Fairy Tail goes back around 400 or so years. I think it'd be really cool. It's like, one of the things that was wiped out is something that was like, it's like, oh, it's sleeping deep beneath the earth, some Balrog type thing. It's like, oh, the earth collapsing shook the planet enough to wake it up. Like, oh, Acnology doing stuff did X, the Phoenix did parts and stuff, and then it's like, okay, this was the last thing, and it managed to wake some form of creature up. Like, imagine like an ancient dragon, and this is like the first dragon. It's some form of predecessor and primal being to others. Like, something neat like that. I would really love something like that in Fairy Tail, where it's just it doesn't have to be some crazy 8 million stuff set up large boss character. It's like, oh no, this is some ancient creature, some ancient evil that we erased from history. We had hoped to never be unearthed or found again. One of those things. So those are always really cool. Those are always really badass when stories get to them. But we see more of Diabolos. I imagine that Diabolos is going to be around this big lake town, which I think is really cool, because that has, like, in a little nod similar to the Fairy Tail Guild, because they have that big lake in Magnolia that I can't pronounce. Lake Scoria. I can't pronounce it. But they're just all eating around a large table, and we got other members of the Diabolos just chilling. I'm wondering if we're going to see any more members, because after we got that one silhouette set where it showed all the members of Diabolos that we had seen, including the 4 Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, I assumed that was all of Diabolos at that point. So we got a handful of members, but these can easily just be nameless background fodder made to pretty much just show some numbers. I'm hoping we get at least like one or two of the smaller members to where we can get their names and stuff. Like, not everybody has to be like in a power floor set to where we're only going to get them as we get stronger. Because it's like, oh, well, unless there's like some secret boss of them where Georg has had a grandson and he's this true Laxus equivalent, and he's the Radiation Godzilla Dragon Slayer. So, you know, I've had that want for a while for Radiation Dragon Slayer. But you know what I mean? Some form of bonus extra who's, oh, he's more powerful than the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, but he was too powerful for me to really control, and I just kind of kept them over here, X, Y, and Z. You know, something like that. But other than that, like, I would hope to get at least, you know, like I said, one or two of the smaller members, just to get them and have them kind of give us some lore. Maybe just have a cool dragon slaying type. Have at least like one other character be more at the general air of people like Wendy and Lucy. And then before Wendy hype people, so yeah, she's got a lot of hype, but obviously she can't pull everything out at the same time. Natsu's just happy the idea of Laxus and Kieran fighting. I'm very pleased that the rivalry is still set. They are 1-1. Laxus winning the second round, Kieran winning the first round. So I'm hoping at some point they have like a skirmish and settle it. And I think that as of right now, like, Mishima's getting a really good spot to have some form of small like training period, even if it's only a couple weeks to months that he could do a time skip. I think if he did a small time skip, that would be really smart. Just like some form of couple months. The characters don't they don't have to have any major change. Natsu doesn't have to come back with a beard, but you give them like slight design outfit changes. Like, just add a couple things, change like some color, like little bits of like details on the outfits, give them each a couple more abilities and stuff like that. That just gives a little bit of a, all right, bump a little bit forward. You're gonna give everybody a couple little things. You can have like Lucy obviously have a better grasp on Stardust Mix. Maybe Urza can have a couple more swords. You know, stuff like that can be just like an easy increase without having to be like, I need to spend a couple chapters doing expositions. Like, we don't need that. We can get a small boost to where we are like the stuff the characters had beforehand. They have a better grasp, and they can each like have, like, you know, some form of new thing they're working on. I think that would be really beneficial and pretty hype. But we then start moving towards finding out information on Goldowl. We find out, okay, Misaki's the strongest woman on Guiltina as a wizard, but she is not the strongest woman in general, because the Signario sisters obviously exist, and we don't know anything about the Goldowl Guildmaster. I'm still betting either he's Viernez or someone directly connected to Viernez, because I think that just makes sense. Maybe even a Dragon Eater of Viernez or something weird. And then there's an explanation on God Serena, and so what a surprise for the people that complained about it. I thought that was one of the dumbest complaint things, because it's like, like I said, there were things that in the arc, even at the time, because I can't say like the Dogramag fight being as short as it was, because obviously it wasn't finished, but it's like Misaki's character getting relatively no insight and no real exposition for the arc was a problem, because Mishima gave details and character bits to every pretty much other members of Diabolos, and in this arc, obviously 3 out of the 4 members of the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. So Misaki, it was just really weird how he just seemed to not have anything planned to do, pretty much just not wanting to do anything with her. At least as of that point, we don't know if he's going to do stuff in the future, and it looks like maybe that was what his plan was, to do stuff with her after the arc. But like, it was weird to, at least to me, for some of the complaints in the arc. But like the main one, it's like God Serena coming back was like something that really upset some people. And like, you don't think that he's gonna explain it, or it's like there's not gonna be some form of, oh yeah, he's alive for X, Y, and Z. Like, it was weird that people just wanted to like act like Mishima was just gonna do this and then ignore any form of reasoning for it and any form of explanation, and he just wanted to bring God Serena back instead of just making a new character or using somebody that's alive. It's like he used somebody specifically that was dead, that was confusing to be dead, to put up like the question mark onto the readers and to people in the story. So it's like, oh yeah, we get to after that point and we are doing that now. What a surprise. I just thought that was a funny one. It made very little sense for me for that to be what people are upset about, complaining about, when it's like, that's such an easy fix. It's just something that we literally just might not have found out about, because it looks like the whole point is it's a question mark plot point and not a, oh wow, this guy's here, I wonder why he's here. It's more of like, how is this guy here? He's dead. And we get an explanation actually from Irene, and Irene is telling him how God's is in fact dead because Nineheart's magic doesn't lie. Well, they do start talking about how with alchemy there are levels of human transmutation. I don't think that it's a straight one for one, like he's back to life. I'm guessing it's something closer to like Keith's necromancy, where it's like connected to him as long as certain conditions are met, and then the person who did it is alive. I assume. Like, I feel like it has to be something very specific like that. Just because, like, bringing back the dead is obviously, like, fully bringing back the dead is, like, a big deal thing. There's, like, a zombie, and then there's, like, you know, essentially, like, Silver, like, a reanimated corpse, and then there's, like, this guy was dead, and came back to life. The only characters that have done it, sort of, Makarov and Irene. But Makarov didn't do his on his own, and he didn't do his in any form of means where a normal person would ever be able to really get to that point. Because the only reason that he was alive is because two immortals pretty much found some way to cheat out the god of life and death, and managed to bring, you know, essentially in cheating two people that shouldn't be dead, is they cheated somebody who should be alive. And with Irene, like, because with them, it's more of, like, specifically due to the conditions met. Whereas, like, Irene, she technically isn't alive. It's a copy of her personality. So it's like a one-for-one of her, but it's technically not the same Irene. You know, hers is a little weird in that scenario, because hers is done by, like, technicality and stuff. But we do have some bits about essentially how their plots of these two guilds are now conflicting, with Selene being the new head of Diabolos, and the members of Diabolos, you know, obviously want to protect their guild master. They're like, okay, well, our goal now is to protect Selene and help her towards the world that she's trying to make, where there's no more dragons and it's only humans, which is flawed by itself, and I'm hoping not to give some more insight to that. But the other aspect is that the Fairy Tail members obviously are after the dragon gods, and, you know, one side is set to either slay or seal one, whereas the other side is set to protect one. So it's like, obviously, confliction of interest, but also, like, it's funny that, like, the Fairy Tail members are like, that kind of makes us look like the bad guys in a way, which is true. Scoleon's still keeping up his helmet, though. I like the dedication. I appreciate that. But there's the last bit of the chapter, when they're talking about it, Natsu's like, you know, it doesn't really matter if they're human or dragon, you know, they gotta look at their hearts and decide, which I think, you know, by translation, and obviously what makes sense to Natsu's character, is it's pretty much, we don't need to look at them as human or dragon. We shouldn't be looking at it that way. It's really just based off of the person, and, you know, and how do they act? Is it like Selene, where it's like, well, clearly you aren't going to just go out and start murdering humans and doing this bad stuff, so you're pretty much taken care of. Whereas, like, with Alderaan, it's like, it doesn't matter if Alderaan is going to chill here for a year and then go do it, or what his plan is. He's clearly in a negative spot, and he's going to do bad things to hurt others. So it's like, regardless of him being a dragon or being a human, he is a person that is too dangerous to leave alive, that will cause more death than, obviously, in exchange of just putting him down. And I think that's the thing that Natsu, again, logically is going to put towards. And I think this is going to be a really mature thing for him, if he's pretty much just being like, we shouldn't go towards a one-set world. We shouldn't go towards a world where dragons are fully ruled, and we shouldn't go towards one where humans are fully ruled. They should go towards one where everybody that is willing to coexist in peace is coexisting. You know, there's dragons who are fine living with amongst humans, and vice versa. Same thing with demons or Machias or any of the races. Like, any of them, they're like, yeah, I don't plan on just killing people. Like the demons on Galuna Island, they're clearly passive. They're friendly. They're not that powerful. But even if they were powerful, because the dragons are clearly powerful, any of them that don't want to cause conflict, I imagine it's like, yeah, you're fine. Like, you know, it's your world too. The humans weren't here first. Even if you say the dragons were here first, it just comes down to, at that point, of right to survival and pretty much right to exist. So I think that's gonna again play a really big part for Natsu in the next coming chapter or so. If we can get some really, again, a really cool bit off of like that, I think it'll be really, really well put together because it's based off of a lot of Natsu's development and parts in the story where he doesn't really see it as, again, humans and dragons. It's people, it's individuals, and it's more about their own choices and how they choose to do things. Because being a dragon or being a demon or being a human doesn't mean you are set to one path. There are humans in the fairy tale world that kill tons of people and do horrible things. Same thing with the demons, but there are good demons, there are good dragons. And Celine's world, though, sounds nice, it goes only in a way that is dragon extermination. It's pretty much the same thing as like be like, oh yeah, we're gonna get rid of all the humans for the dragons to live again. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. It's like, what was the original Acnologia's thing? He was with the humans, went and found out about these dragon slayers, and then decided to come back and get rid of the dragon slayers, just off the chance that they might become, humans, just off the chance they might become dragon slayers, which ultimately resulted in the Acnologia that we all know. And if that Acnologia hadn't gone back to pretty much eradicate the humans, the Acnologia that became a problem wouldn't have ever risen to power. He never would have had any reason to go do what he did. So, beyond all that, like I said, it's a good chapter for where it's headed. I didn't like that the fight was shortened as it was, but everything post Labyrinth arc so far has been good, which granted is only most of one chapter, but it's still looking in a positive direction. And like I said, I liked the Dogramag arc overall. I thought the Labyrinth was fine overall. My two big things for it was Misaki weirdly got like little to no character insight, and then the Dogramag fight was a little too short. The only like if the arc later is made more apparent to be a more of a setup arc to where it was more laying up events for like a bigger arc, then the most I could do is at that point boost it to like 8.5, but it's like you can't go too much higher. It does have like Lucy's fight was really good. I really like that because Gajil's fight as well could be one that's retroactively better. Like it could boost that one as well if once we actually get to the God Serena fight and versus Gajil rematch, if it gets a really good payoff and we get a lot of really cool stuff out of it. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about this chapter, and tell me your thoughts are about, obviously, the events going on right now in 100 Years Quest. I know a lot of people are going to be salty over the shortened fight for Dogramag, where it should have absolutely been longer. But at least in the following bits, like I said, I really like what Mishima has going on. So we'll see exactly what he is going to do next and where the enemies are. Because like we had that last panel of Eleftheria, and everybody is either not caring about Eleftheria or find him extremely suspicious. I'm on the extremely suspicious side because he is a sus dude. Maybe we'll start to see his existence and role in the story soon. Because I assume that if he is not going to be doing some White Wizard stuff, then his plot is going to be like pushed away for later. I feel like now would be a really cool time for him. I think now would be a really good time for either him to kind of get set up as a bad guy or for us to really kind of start getting the crumbs. Like if we get some form of dragon slaying themed training arc for certain people and Eleftheria partakes, but it's like everything he says and does seems to have some form of weird little extra bit to it. Like there's just something on to everything that he says that makes you feel a little uneasy. Maybe. We'll see. Other than that, comment below. Thumbs up the video, but friend, like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But on that, I appreciate you already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.